Hey guys, welcome back. So the first thing I want to talk to you about this week is some housekeeping stuff. So let's discuss what is due this week and where you should be at. So this week you should have read Chapter 5, the assessment and understanding. So in that you should have read pages 88 through 100. Your mini lesson number 3 is due on the 5th. By 11:59 p.m. I have graded everything, I'm fairly certain. So you guys are all caught up on your grades. You should know where you stand. Make sure that you keep turning in your weekly questions. Those are part of the video, and they make sure that you guys are getting the questions you have answered as you're going out into the field. Another thing that I want to talk about in the syllabus, it discusses the 6 mini lessons and their 6 lesson plans. So that is part of the coursework. The field experience in this course specifically is a separate grade. So any requirement for field experience is still a requirement for the course, but it is for the field experience portion of this course. For my course, the in-class portion, you owe 6 total annotated bibliographies, 6 total written lesson plans, and 6 total mini lesson videos. You will also have a 100-point final, and you are supposed to be asking your questions of the week as your attendance. So if you have questions about field, I can dive into field if you want me to do that and discuss what is required for the actual field portion of this class, and the syllabus isn't clear enough for you, shoot me an email and I'll put it in next week's video. So let's discuss Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is all about assessment and understanding. So it opens up with a good teacher asks, how am I doing? And a great teacher asks, how are my students doing? I think that that is a little misleading. I think that a good teacher asks, how are my students doing? And a great teacher is reflective, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that a good teacher is not reflective, but a great teacher looks back at their lessons, writes down notes about what worked this year, what they don't think is going to work next year, what they can improve on. That's how we become a better teacher each day. So when you're talking about assessment, there are 2 types of assessment. There is a formative assessment, which is like a diagnostic test, such as, what do you guys know about gravity? That is a formative assessment. The diagnostics that we take in classrooms at the beginning of the year and reading, those are also formative assessments because they allow us to formulate a plan to help students get to where they need to be. Summative assessments, they answer questions. So they would be like, what has my student mastered this year? Has my student mastered the content in Chapter 3? That's what a summative assessment is. It's a summary of the knowledge gained throughout the year. Okay.
Gabriel Veneer to the office, please.
So there are types of assessment strategies that they talk about. They talk about a prompt and a rubric. A prompt is where you give people an open-ended question, and a rubric is basically for my students to prove that they know this, they need to hit boxes A, B, C, and D. Also, rubrics go in like 3-2-1 scales. So the example they give in the book is this little drum is made by stretching plastic wrap over a jar. I'd like you to tap the drum with an eraser, look at the plastic, tell me what you see and what you hear, then put some rice on the plastic and tap it again. And then the questions were, what do you observe when you hit it with the eraser, and what do you think causes sound? So the rubric, a 3-point answer would be the student's description of what it was observed includes the plastic moves up and down. Vibration causes the sound. 2-point would be a response to one of the observations, and then a 1-point would be no response. A performance assessment is something that we do a lot. So in a performance assessment, basically you ask them to perform a task to show us that they know how to do something. The example that they give is where they talk about lights and plants, and they give you 2 plants. You have 1 week to find out what will happen to the plants if you keep them in a closet without light. So, and then they give you a guide, and the kids basically have to do that and write down what's going on. So then they have a scoring guide that has criteria, and they have criteria like, is the prediction testable? Do they talk about the treatment? Do they talk about the control? Do they identify the observables? Do they make daily entries? Do they use labeled drawings? Are their observations accurate? And then the results are consistent with their observations. And they relate that the performance of light is necessary for plants to grow. So another one that they talk about is a portfolio, and that's just an organized collection of all the things that you have to do. In our field, you guys are required to keep a portfolio as well. Yours is an e-portfolio, so it'll be a zipped file that you send to me that'll have all of your lesson plans and your field experience logs in it so that I can go through those. And then you'll go through your field experience evaluation with whoever is observing you. I believe Dr. Jones is doing most of those. Next, we're talking about anecdotal records. And this is where you just sit down and write notes about how kids are doing. Maybe in this point, you're not assessing students' learning. You're assessing their wellness. You're assessing their emotional state of being. You're assessing how they handle adversity. This is really important for us because I always talk about how you need to put the Maslow before you put the Bloom. You know, you use anecdotal notes to discuss the Maslows. Let's see, development checklists. They also talk about conferences with students. They talk about science notebooks, which are a lot like portfolios. I think that a really cool thing that they talk about here is self-assessment. I think it's very important for students to be able to talk about what they feel they're learning, how they feel they're handling step-by-step instructions. It allows you to get creative because you can ask students different questions. Hey, how do you feel about this? How do you feel you handle this? And as students become more reflective, they gain a better understanding of what they're doing. And it allows them to be reflective learners as they go on, and that'll just ultimately set them up for success. Oh, let's see. So now we're going to talk about some basic end of chapter stuff, summative assessments. And the things they talk about are like end of chapter assignments, quizzes, intermediate tests. Oh, excuse me, been a long day. Research reports, and these are all things that we've done forever. And it doesn't mean that they're always good, but it doesn't mean that they're bad. You know, we talk about standardized testing and where kids are and comparing them with their peers. Ultimately, you have to do what your district wants you to do. So do your best to find creative ways to assess your children, but still prepare them for their standardized tests. Okay. I think that is it for the chapter. So now I want to dive into your questions of the week. So, what is your favorite science experiment to teach? So my favorite science experiment was the mousetrap car. I did this with my pull-out high school science kids. It was an engineering project. It incorporated math, teamwork, fine motor skills. It allowed my kids to be creative. So it met all of these different things. Kids had to design their own mousetrap cars. They were all given the same things, but they could bring in stuff from the outside to help build their car. They designed it. They were able to decorate it. They were able to make it unique. And then at the end of the unit, we had a distance competition, and whoever's car traveled the farthest with the same mouse traps was the winner. They were declared the winner, and that person got lunch from me. So it was really, really fun to do with my kids. It was good to see my kids be successful. We'd watch several introductory videos, then we'd talk about what we were going to do, and then we worked together in class for 2 weeks. And then we had the Cooper Grand Prix in the hallway. And eventually it became a big deal, and the director of facilities bought all my kids pizza for working so hard. So it was a really great experience for everyone. Our final question is, do you believe that in classes where a lot of material must be covered, that a flipped classroom model could be beneficial so assignments could be completed in class? Or would this take too much away from the in-class learning experience? Do you believe that students would follow through with watching recorded lectures, have responsibilities at home, or is an issue of homework not getting done typically found with completing problems, worksheets? Okay, so like we talked today, homework is a form of assessment and practice. What do you want your classroom assignments to do? Are they practice or are they assessments? If they're practice, that's one thing. But if you're doing them if you're doing assignments just so you can have grades in the grade book, there's no point in doing homework. You can learn just as much from talking to your kids in your classroom as you can from sitting down for hundreds of hours after class and reading papers. I do think that the flipped classroom model is really cool. I don't think the majority of teaching should be done through video. I think that, especially in our traditional classes, it's very important for our kids to have social interaction. I think that it does take away from in-class learning. So I like to do a hybrid course where I introduce a topic in a flipped classroom setting, we discuss it, and then we do our assignments together in class. But if I can't fit it into a classroom, it's really not that important to me. It's not worth making my kids hate a subject because there's too much work. So, all right. That is all I have for this week. I hope that you guys are safe. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you get your mini lessons in on time. If you have any questions, email me. I will not be sending emails out through Brightspace anymore. I was informed that there's an issue with Brightspace messaging right now. So all future emails will come from jcooper9@ohiochristian.edu. Okay, stay safe. God bless.
Woo! This is awesome. Say yeehaw!